It's springtime, and we are going to do these super cute botanical specimen nails. And guess what? These are actual plants in here. So everyone's going to need to actually go outside, go on a nice little walk in your yard, whatever, and find some teeny tiny scale appropriate little plant parts. And then we're going to come back and make these adorable nails. Okay, let's get our base coats on there so we can get to the fun part, which is putting the plants on. So this is yogurt nails from the Gelato collection, number 25, and it is just a nice milky, syrupy, creamy, buttery yellow. Just do a full cure on that, and then we will do our little ombre on the top with the blue. Now we're going to go in with, again, yogurt nails from the chewing gum collection, number 94. And we are just going to do like the top third, maybe, half of the nail. I just want this to have like a fresh kind of sky feel to it. I just like this creamy yellow and blue combo. And then I'm using my favorite little ombre brush to just blend the edge. And then we cure that guy. And don't worry too much about this being absolutely perfect because we're putting a mag gel layer over it and then the plants and stuff. So, okay, our next layer is the Liuwa, and I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but this is from the Gleam Pop collection. I love this collection. This is 130, number 130 from it. I'm quickly loving this brand. They have a muted collection as well, and I only got a couple of them, and I may have to get a lot more of them. This whole collection is, I think there's like 10 in it, and they're just really nice, effervescent, sparkly, and there's like half of them are pale tinted ones, and then the other half are a little richer toned and have richer particles in them too. So the whole thing is it's a nice balanced collection, and I am in love with it. So we're just doing a nice coat on this. You can do it thinner on the bottom because in the end I am going to try to push those particles up towards the top. This one's a little hard to tell because it is a glittery, kind of flash glittery gel as well as the magnetic particles in it. And I'm just going to switch to my ball magnet. And I feel like there we go. That finally moved up those bottom particles enough to kind of clear out and make the bottom less busy. And then we're going to cure this. And again, these are Korean gels, so they're going to have more of that inhibition layer on them, and we are going to use that to our advantage in our next step with placing our plant matter. Okay, look at all of the amazing stuff I found just from around my yard. We want stuff that is fairly flat, or that you can snip some stuff off of, maybe on the back side to make it a little more flat to help it lay. And I just kind of have some of the nice little whirly-doos from some Japanese maple trees and some maidenhair fern tips. And you just have to find stuff that's the correct scale for your nails. And hopefully you can identify the plants because we are also going to just do a Word document. And this is just on regular old paper. And I just found a typewriter font that I liked. And then I had to experiment because I didn't know what size was going to work on the nails. So I just did, this is a combo. The smallest I believe is 6-point, and then 7-point and 8-point. And the 6-point ended up working the best, but I still had to do the labels one word on top of each other. Okay, let's start out doing the maidenhair fern nail. Just pick one. You have to kind of pick the tiny little ends. There, I ended up getting this guy. That fit really nicely. And because the leaves are so thin, and this is still fresh stuff, that inhibition layer, they're just going to kind of stick to it enough. And if you're careful, you can use tweezers and get that little leaf out from behind there. And I really like these maidenhair ferns because the stem structure is so nice on the nail. And then we're just going to trim it up a little. Okay, I am just going to snip. Sorry, I'm all over the place when I'm trying to cut this. So I'm just trimming that stem off so that I have enough room to put our little label on the bottom. And then anything you have hanging off the sides, we want to go in and just trim that out so that we have an edge still showing of the polish, because we want to encapsulate the vegetative matter, the biological sample. We want that to be totally encapsulated so that it stays put and nothing's going to lift. And there, that should be good on both sides. We have a border that our top layers will adhere to now. And I'm just going to go in and brush over this with, a somewhat thin top coat, just to seal this in while it is still sticking nicely to that inhibition layer. And just be gentle, depending on our biological specimen here, of how you're brushing it on, and just go with, how the directions of how the plant is sitting. Cure that. And now we are going to put on, just on that little bottom part where our label is going to go, a little bit of a nail foil glue. And I'm just using the McCart nail foil glue because it works. And this is actually an Amazon purchase. I think I put a title on there earlier that said everything was available at Sweeties. This you can get on Amazon, but any foil glue is going to work. Anything that's going to make it sticky so that our paper will stick to it. Now you do want to cure that for 60 seconds. And while that is curing, let's just quickly set up one of the little whirly-do ones, because it's a little different and it's more dimensional. And I kind of tack some stuff down. So I'm going to go in with the Zombie... I never can remember the name. Zombie King High Builder Non-Wipe Top Coat. Love the stuff, hate the name. I guess I could just say the Zombie High. It just sounds like an incomplete name. Anyway, so because the stem and everything is a little stiff, I just put a dab of that, and you could use like a rhinestone glue, whatever, just something that has adhesive ability. And I'm just going to flash cure that while holding it. I can't believe I was able to hold all of this at once and actually do this and not screw it up. And if something is a little stiffer like this, you might want to tack it down in several spots. I ended up not needing to, but I did just I wanted to get that top coat on there just to sort of get that thing on there so it wouldn't keep popping up. And also on something that has a seed pod in it like this, if it's not behaving, you can also go on the back side of it and sort of excavate out some of the hard stuff in there so that the thing lays flatter on the front side. And you're never going to know because the front side still looks nice. And I'm not worried about getting gel there's a little bit of open space by the actual seed pod center area. But I think by the end of it, we get enough layers of gel on the top that I think we'll have enough structure from it, sort of the capillary action of it moving up the sides and then the layers on the top. It should be fine. And I don't want uncured gel underneath that solid color. And I'm just trimming that little bit on the right side that's, too long for the nail. So again, I have that border left of the polish to encapsulate it. And don't worry about this is just the first layer. Do it smooth so that you don't have to, clean up after yourself later. But we're going to have probably 2 more layers of top coat on this. And because that stem was a little stubborn, I waited until after I cured this first layer to trim that one off. And then I can always just file that a little to make that edge nicer. And then because we're doing multiple coats over this, it's fine. Okay, let's get out our paper, and we just need to cut out our little specimen labels and just use some really nice sharp scissors. And you just want straight lines, nice neat job if you can. Or if you don't want that, it can look, kind of quirky too. It's your choice. And once you get that whole thing cut out, I highly suggest you start moving to tweezers to hold everything, because these little suckers are so easy to lose. They want to fly everywhere. So have a good spot that you can very much notice that they are still there, and put those aside. Okay, now, but before we start gluing the labels on, I just want to show you this. This was the first one I did. And when I initially did it, I used a very thin top coat to put over it. And then you see the second one on the left. The label is much brighter and still white and solid. So I think that thin top coat I used, the solvents or whatever in it, started soaking into the paper, and it made it look more translucent, where I just tacked with a thicker gel, that second one, tack the edges down just so it wouldn't come up. Because as soon as you start putting gel over foil tack glue, it doesn't matter that it tacked down to the foil. It starts pulling up once you have wet gel around it. So it depends. Both look okay. It just depends on what look you want. And even with the other thicker gels, if you are fussing about with it, it also will eventually start to soak in to that paper. In the end, I don't think it matters because this is just a fun, quirky nail anyway. So, you know. But that foil tack glue does really help to position our paper, and it sticks just so you can get it centered, and it really helps to temporarily get the two ends of the label to stick down to the nail. Okay, once you have everything placed how you like, we are going to use the Cocoist accessory bond. But again, any kind of thicker bonding gel like this will work. We're just going to use a little bit on all of the ends to just get this officially tacked down so that it cannot move anymore and those little ends can't flip up. Okay, stick that in the lamp to cure it. And while that's happening, I just want to show if you're a real stickler and you don't like that you put that straight cut label on a curved nail and now it's doing a weird optical illusion, it doesn't look straight anymore, you can always do a slight curve to the top cut, like it's a slight circle or an arc that's arcing down. And then that may help combat the fact that it's sort of on a downward slope and on a curved nail, if that matters to you. So I think it did help on this one. Once it gets on there, this label looks a little, we've combated it and it looks straight. Your label can start to look like a little smile on the nail, basically. Okay, now that we have our labels sort of stuck on there enough, we are now going to go in with the Zombie King High again, because it is a thicker top coat and we will have time to get this on the nail without it completely soaking that white paper. It might do it a little bit. I think one of these, it does a tiny bit on it, but you know, I still like it. I think anything will start to do that if you leave it long enough. You get a better chance with the thicker stuff. And on this layer of top coat, we are trying to just get a nice smooth area. I mean, across the whole nail, but especially over the label, because our last little touch is going to be adding some alcohol ink. And I just want that to be, you know, not a gross, unthought of area on the nail. And then we'll do one final top coat and we're done. And you totally don't have to do this step if you don't want to. I just liked what it added to it. So I'm going to use these Favori alcohol ink pens, but you can also just as easily use any craft alcohol ink in this step as well. I was just very curious about these Favori pens, and I actually really like them. I mean, this is the mid-century set, I believe. There are two sets, and I can't remember if this is the first or second set, but I'm pretty sure it's the mid-century. But this color is kelp, and it's just a really great sort of sepia brown, which I thought went well with the Maidenhair one. And I originally was just trying to do some shadow stuff on these labels, but then I kind of liked it when I started going back in with little drops of alcohol and how it was, you know, doing the nice little alcohol patterns. And that is one thing I like about these pens, because a lot of the inks made for nails, you really can only go back in and rework them with acetone. And I liked that these can be reworked like regular little craft alcohol inks, and they respond really nicely to just alcohol on a brush. And once you like what you have, you just do another layer of our top coat and cure it, and we are done. And I'm just going to do the same thing with the Japanese maple seed pod nail, but I am going to use the soot color and more of a black color on that one because I thought it just looked nicer with the colors in that nail. And then we'll take a look at the finished ones. Okay, we finished them. They have their final layer of top coat on them, and there they are. Our adorable little botanical specimen nails, hopefully from your local, you know, garden, little park. So you get to go and take a walk and do some little gatherings and then come home and make some nails, because you do want to do this when they're fresh. They look much better. Here are some other little side quests I did along the way before I was putting the labels in. That one just has the mag gel on it, not the cream colors beforehand. And then I kind of did one where I was maybe implying a sunset-y kind of sky. So there's all kinds of little variations on this that you can do. And here's another fun one that I did was when I was doing all of these, which is sort of a, I don't know, water droplet, sort of watery garden, blah, blah, blah kind of feeling. Maybe I'll do a little tutorial on that guy too, because that was really cool how that came together. It really brightened up at the end. So yeah, there's all of our nails. Possibilities are endless. So go forth and skip through the garden and gently pick a few little things.